Hey everybody, Jason McCumsey, Redbeard Rebuilding here. I have finally had one of these new Nordic carbons come across my desk, and I'm too poor to go buy one, so we're gonna give it a whirl. Um, I've only ever thrown the Champion carbon, no, Air Glider carbon. That's the one I threw. I threw an Air Glider carbon like once or twice in a competition because somebody had it and I felt like it, but that was so long ago I don't remember really how it went. Uh, But for comparison purposes, Valkyrie, right? Valkyrie. Valkyrie medium. Uh, we also have, can you see the numbers? Namath 70, standard pointy head. Uh, this one here is my Nordic. It's a Master 70. Uh, this one, I don't really remember what it is or what it was. I'm pretty sure it was an Aussie. Uh, but what exactly kind of Aussie, I don't remember. It's an older style though, not like the newer ones. You can tell by the heads. I definitely like the older Aussies better than the new ones. So we're gonna give it a whirl. Try to get you some camera angles, see what we can do. Uh, I definitely want to try to get you guys to be able to see the tail end of things, so that way you can see how much things are moving compared to everything else. So, just for purposes of explanation, um, I was told that this is a half and half of carbon and aluminum, and they're mated underneath the grip here in some way, shape, or form. Um, Obviously, I don't have the money to go buy one and take it apart, which I would love to do, just to see how that all works. But I think it would actually make an interesting paint job. I don't know if anybody got to see the clear paint job that I did on a carbon. I don't remember what kind of carbon it was off the top of my head, but we used a red tinted clear coat with some sparklies and metallics in there. I think it would be interesting to definitely see the transition between a carbon to aluminum. Just, I think it would be interesting. But so um, this one, I believe, what does it say? This is the NXS tip. I'm gonna have to look that up just to be sure which one it is, but I'm pretty sure this is the more blunt one. And is more along the lines of the older Nordic Masters. You can tell it's a little more blunt, by a little, not by much. Um, Now, I don't know if this is a one piece head or a two-piece head. I know my Masters is a two-piece head. I can unscrew the front tip here and reweight it, or however we need to fix things up there. Um, so they're pretty close along that line. Obviously, my Nordic is only a 70, so it's definitely going to have a bit more flex than the carbon. Same thing with the Namath. It's just a standard regular Namath. Yeah, it actually says standard on it. Namath standard 70. Um, Now, with the carbons, they did a new type of rating system, which is a little concerning to me. Um, if you haven't gotten to read one before, let me see if I can get that up close enough for you. You can see lettering there, transfers over here, and it gives you, I think, a 1 through 5 numbering. Yeah, 1 through 5. You have aerodynamics, balance, stiffness, and skill level. Now, stiffness and skill level, to me, goes hand in hand. Um, so, along the lines of aerodynamics, I think all the javelins that they put this rating on, the aerodynamics is 5, obviously, because you want the best aerodynamics. But the difference between a Valkyrie and a Valhalla medium javelin, the only difference between the two is on this rating at balance. The Valkyrie, which is what I have here, is at a 4. The Valhalla medium carbon is a 5. That I don't understand. Now, I'm sure Nordic has their own reasons, but when I balance Any javelin, doesn't matter which one, this one, this one. Even I'd put a brand new grip on this one. Balanced it the same exact way across the board. I take that javelin and I find the minute that real English. I try to narrow it down the best I can, so that way that balance point comes right in here somewhere. And that doesn't matter what javelin it is. You could give me a javelin where the balance point is back here. I am going to do my best when you give it to me to move that balance point up here. Costs a little extra, but that's what I want to do. I want to give you the best balanced javelin I can give you. Now I kind of wish I had the money to go and buy one of these and a Valhalla, just for the sake of comparison and make a video about it. That would be optimum for me. That would be fun. I'm weird. It's okay. So those are the only two differences between the Valhalla and the Valkyrie, at least by what it says on here and by what it says on the Nordic page. It could be made differently. It could be vice versa. I like switched between. I don't know whether it's carbon and aluminum or aluminum and carbon, how they swap them. For all I know, the Valkyrie and the Valhalla could be opposites that way. Don't know. Never took one apart. Wish I could. I'm not going to do it to this one because it's not mine. So, could be any one of those things, but by Nordic's production and information put out there on the website, the only difference between this one and the Valhalla is the balance. So, we'll see what happens. We got some rain clouds floating around, so we're going to try to get this in before things get going. I don't want to get rained on. So, see what we do. Alright, so it took me like 10 minutes here to figure out my camera angles. You are currently like, I don't know, you're pointed at the sky rather than me throwing it, because I only have my cell phone and it's like reversed, so I'm looking at the screen so I know what I'm doing. But it seems to be the best angle for me to throw it, obviously, and for you to get somewhat of a look at the javelin. It's not going to be the best. Obviously, like I said, I'm doing this through my phone, so yeah, it's what you get. I'd love to do more of these reviews. I just don't have the finances to back that up and to purchase all the javelins and to do that. And just so you guys know, I am no professional when it comes to throwing the javelin. So please take everything what I'm saying with a grain of salt. When it comes to throwing the javelin, I make a better coach than a thrower. But I have taken apart countless javelins. I have balanced countless javelins. I have obviously painted them countless javelins. I've gotten to see how everything works, how things balance, and what they do. So while I might not be the best thrower in the world, well, I'm not. I am a professional when it comes to the javelin itself. So when I'm telling you what I see and what I feel, take that information and go with it. I want to give you guys the best information I can with the javelins that I have and my suggestions. So like I said, this is the first time I'm ever throwing this javelin today. First time you guys get to see it. And we're going to tell you what I think, because I've already thrown a 70 Nordic, Namath, and my mystery, what I think is a Aussie, because it didn't have a label. But we're going to go with that. We're going to throw that one first, obviously, because that's the no name, and we're just going to go with it. So this is probably the most flexible javelin we got. It's kind of hard to show you the flex of it. I'm trying to give you guys an idea of what this one does. But this is probably the most flexible javelin out of the three that we have. So I would still probably put it in the 70 range, just a lower end 70, how you want to do that. So all I'm doing is a quick 5-step approach, maybe 6, kind of wherever I start at. It's just something to get me moving, get me into a set of cross steps, and bang one out as good as I can. as well as I can. I'm not an English major. So that's what we're doing. Like I said, starting off with the mystery jav. And I think I'm going to go mystery jav, Nordic Nemeth, and then Nordic Valkyrie at the end. So let's hop to it. All right. Not gonna know what that looks like until we play it back, but it flew nice. I am purposely kind of just throwing right down the foul line though. Um, I am not caring if it goes in, but that's the general direction I'm going, just to give me a focal point uh, down the line. Yeah, Nordic 70. Everything's actually coming up pretty smooth. I like it. We're not getting a whole lot of flex. That means I'm not yanking. We're just popping them out right, nice and easy. Uh, Give or take about the same distance. Like I said, I'm not trying to yank them. I'm not trying to go a whole hog. We're not doing a full approach. Just some casual throwing, having some fun. Nemeth is next. I will say, that is the one javelin I regret selling. I had a Nemeth 70 and I liked throwing that one. But uh, yeah, I think my favorite javelin that I've thrown so far had to be between Nemeth 70, Nemeth 80 Classic. Um, I'm more of the blunt head, kind of like the way the Nordic does it with the kind of pointy but kind of blunt. I kind of like that way. So if I could mate the two together, like put my Nordic head on my Nemeth, which you can't because they're not the same right diameters. But if I could do that, that's probably the way I'd work it. Um, longer, longer taper on the point, but still a blunter point, not the really pointy version that Nemeth has on their standard. But all right, first good throw with this one. I'm gonna say this thing's stiff. Like I said, I don't know if it's carbon aluminum or aluminum, or excuse me, vice versa. Um, you can't really tell because they're mounted obviously together. Um, but this thing definitely returns very well. The question is how well does it come out of your hand with how stiff it is? So let's give it a whirl. All right, so that has no forgiveness whatsoever. Um, I did yank on that one. I felt myself come down rather than get up and out. Um, and the javelin definitely showed that there was no forgiveness. It went up. Uh, Oddly enough, it's only a couple feet off of the other three. But yeah, let's go for round. So I said that they were pretty close to each other. When I got up there, the Valkyrie was about 10 feet off of the other three. So um, now that being said, I threw the other three well. There was no flex. Everything just nice. Well, there was flex, but everything flew well. There wasn't a lot of wiggle. And it just went out. Other than being off to the right, which is normal for me, they were good throws. So I just kind of mucked it up on that one. Uh, take that one on the user error. Um, let's try first. It doesn't really matter, but Valkyrie's up. All right. So I'm hoping you guys got to see that. Um, that was a good throw for the Valkyrie. Um, I will say there was zero flex. Uh, by the time I looked up and watched it fly, yeah, there was no wiggle at the end. Um, so like I said, there was no forgiveness in that jab. It wasn't a perfect throw, but it was a good throw. Um, it went out there fairly well, I'd say. Um, I don't have yard markers out, so I don't know where that is. Maybe $150, maybe, just for a casual, quick drop throw. Um, yeah, let's get to the other ones. Throw the other Nordic. Hold up. Come back. Try it again. Ah, good. Huh. That was a good throw for that one. Um, like I said, I'm just popping them out. Not going extreme. Seeing what I can do, just popping them. Uh, I'd say the Valhalla went maybe 10 feet farther. Um, but, yeah. We're going with the what I think is an Aussie. Come back. Try it again. Again, decent flight. Not gonna cry about it for a 5-step drop. A little shorter than the other two, but then again, I'm tired. It's after work. As we go, it's gonna get more tiring. Um, so this is 4 javelins. This will make throw number 8, which is 8 more than I get in on a normal basis. So I'm gonna give the Nordic, or excuse me, Namath, another throw. And I think we're gonna drop down to 2 jabs, and we're just gonna compare the 2 Nordics together. I mean, there's not really much else I can say. I don't know what kind of a. I can't tell if you guys can even see where those javelins are. I think I'm in the way. The road is that way. Can you see the jabs? You would think you could see that bright orange thing sticking out there, but it's too far away for you to see it. Stick back in there. Stay. So yeah, just so I can get a couple more throws in, I think we're just going to drop down to 2 jabs, and we're going to go from there. So let's throw the Namath. I will say, out of all of the javelins, out of all 4 I just threw, Valkyrie went the farthest. Now it had no give whatsoever, but it still went the farthest. So let's see what else we get. All right, I said the Valkyrie went the farthest, but the 2 Nordics, give or take same distance, they were off a little bit, but these 2 had the same distance, give or take a foot. So we're going to drop down to throw these 2. Try to get maybe 2 or 3 more in, and hope it doesn't rain. So let's go with Greenie. Not a bad throw, but I left it go high. But it ain't shabby. I'm letting go too much here. I'm staying square generally, but I'm like way up here rather than pulling it straight through. It went high up. But, I mean, went well. Try the other one. Flex. Now, I had to back off real quick on that one. When I came into plant, went off to the side with the left. Didn't want to sprain my ankle, but you could tell that one messed up. I still went out there. Give or take about, off a little bit, but give or take the same as the Nordic. So you could definitely tell when I got out there, this did not fly the way it was supposed to. And it ended up very tail up, which means we did more of this and a quick drop rather than the continuous flight until falling. The Nordic, the other, my 70 meter, did that. Now, definitely didn't do what I wanted to do with this one, so we got to watch my ankle. I'm gonna try to give it a little more oomph, see what happens. Yeah, just try not to hurt ourselves. Going with a Valhalla. Or excuse me, it's a Valkyrie. I think for myself, that's what I don't like about that jab. It's because I'm not a perfect thrower. Never have been. I threw that kind of wonky, and it didn't come back. It didn't like it, and it died. And the weird thing is it went right. It went distance. It looked horrible when I did it. Yeah. We'll give this one a whirl one more time, and then I think we're going to call it. So we're going to take a walk. Walk and talk. Where's my tape? You guys are taped to a javelin, by the way. Come on, tape. hold on. Excuse me, pardon me. Get off of there. Alright. Probably should have kept that javelin. But it made a little, had a better arm. So, what I said about it not being forgiving, it's standing almost vertical right now because of how badly I threw it. But strangely enough, it still went the same distance as my Nordic 70. It might be off by a couple feet, by like maybe a foot by the looks of things. But it's more upright than that one. So there's the two, and that's what you see. There's not much difference, but definitely there is the vertical difference. So I've seen a Master 70 go well over 200 feet. And the guy threw it well, he threw the point. That was his javelin, he loved it. Obviously, these carbons are used by professionals every day and go beyond that. So, would I throw the carbon myself? No. When it comes down to me personally, carbon isn't worth the money, or at least this carbon is not worth the money for what I throw. My Master 70, Name is 70, my no-name jav, those are all in my ballpark. They're better off for me. Would I give this javelin, or who I say would I give this javelin to? You would have to have a really good high schooler to give that to them. Like really good. I think for younger kids, it's still in high school, that haven't had the collegiate style coaching and all the fine tuning that you go through in collegiates. Without having that, you would have to have a perfect kit, honestly, for me to give that carbon to, let alone give a Valhalla to. I mean, well, that's wrong of me to say, because we said in the beginning the Valhalla is only different by the balance, which is weird. Now I think if I would have thrown a Valhalla out here, it would have looked horrible, because if that's more fine-tuned to balance compared to this one, man, when I lost the tip, it probably would have went straight up in the air and struck a cloud. So I probably would never throw a Valhalla myself. Could I throw a Valkyrie? Sure. Would I want to throw one every day? Hell no. That thing is going to be too stiff, and my elbow would be shot 5 throws in if I did it all the time, every day, or every practice. It is not a practice javelin by any means. If you have one, my suggestion is only do it on your competition days, when you're actually throwing for competition, or when you're doing like perfectly fine-tuned days, not just getting throws in, where you're being specific and you are getting nitpicking everything and getting ready for a competition in like 2 or 3 days. When you're doing that practice, sure, but not an everyday javelin. No. It's too stiff to throw every day, and I probably tell you the professionals probably don't throw them every day. They're probably, when they're trying to get their reps in and just trying to throw, they're not using that javelin, because it would wear and tear you out. Out. Either way, it would mess you up if you threw that every day, all day long, no matter who you are. They're probably dropping down to like the Name of 70 or that's for a different question. Yeah, so that is my opinion on that. We're gonna do a uh, not an intro. Why can't I think of the word? Anyway, like I said, not your everyday javelin thrower. Probably not your high school thrower unless they are a perfectly fine-tuned thrower. If they're a muscle thrower, oh no, that would tear you up if you're just a muscle buster thrower. You need to be fine-tuned, throw perfectly through the point to get that carbon to work. That's my opinion on that. Is a would I say good or bad javelin? Obviously, it's a great javelin. The professionals are throwing them monster throws and they love them. Not for me because I'm not one. Um, we're going to end it with that. I'm going to go change my shoes, get my knee braces off, and then we're going to come back and talk about how to. I'm not even sure how to do that, but we'll figure it out. We're going to try and compare, contrast, and figure out meter ratings and how they would fall in there because I'm not really sure myself. We're going to throw some. We're just going to stop here, throw some ideas around. So I'll be right back. All right, guys, I don't have a fancy car holder, so hopefully you guys can stay down there and not go anywhere while I'm driving. I'm going to pay attention to the road rather than looking down at you, so you're probably going to. I'll try not to have my arm up there so you can at least get an idea of what we're doing. Let's get out of here before the rain gets here. Where are you going, Van? Hold on. All right, so what I was going to try and talk about there at the very end, what I was thinking, is how to compare the carbon to everything else. You know, they don't put a meter rating on it for whatever purpose, or they don't use the flex rating like Nordic was using there. They use for some of their other javelins. Why Nordic hasn't gone with? Why is Nordic using this rating with these javelins for the carbons and not with everything else? Why do they still have the flex rating on the Masters and their other carbon, like the champion? They have a champion carbon. They have the Airglider carbon, which I believe are still either using the flex rating or the meter rating. And obviously everybody else is using the meter rating. So how to compare those? It's a hard thing to think about it, and trying to figure out in my head is kind of turning my brain to mush. The carbon is a stiff javelin. It doesn't matter, what kind of carbon you think about. Any carbon is going to be a stiff javelin. The only carbon that I know of that has flex is the OTE countervail. That is some fancy technology that I myself do not understand. Gotta make sure you don't fall over. That one has flex and is built to flex but return quicker than a mofo and then be straight on like a standard carbon. Not to get off topic, but the countervail carbon, I believe, is a standard shaft from OTE that is then coated with a carbon on top. Now, I could be horribly wrong in that statement, but from what I remember and what I was told, that is how that javelin is built. So, not entirely sure. Comparing this carbon to that carbon is like apples to oranges. You're dealing with two majorly different scenarios. So going back to flex and meters and the four numbers that the that this Nordic has. Honestly, with flex, it is the opposite of meters by going by the numbers. It's like reading what do I call it? Like wire. Wire. The lower the number is, the bigger the diameter. Higher the number, then the smaller it gets. For whatever reason, I don't know why that is, but that's the way they did it. But it's the same way with flex. The lower the number, the less flex you get. The higher the number, the more flex you get. And then the meter rating obviously is the higher than rating, the stiffer the javelin. Excuse me, where's my water? What I don't like about all of the ratings is that there is no one set standard to base it off of. Nordic has their version, OTE has their version, Namath has their version. You can't just, there's no set metric to say what 70 is, what 80 is, what 7.5 is. Each company says whatever they think their javelin's going to do. So comparing everything is kind of hard. And that's, all the way around, not just with what we're talking about now. So that javelin is stiff. Obviously, the hard version is going to be stiffer than what that one is. So you're probably putting it down into the 4 number, like at the flex rating. You're probably putting it down into the 4s. I'm not even sure how far their rating goes on that, but it's down there. And then if you're putting a meter rating on it, you're going up into a 90 meter javelin. That's just plain and simple of it. I think the term is you're throwing a pole, or you're throwing a pipe, because that pipe isn't going to flex. It's just there. See about putting up a window here. Might be less airy. So I kind of went off topic a little bit, talking about how everybody's javelin, if you compare it to a meter rating, is not the same. And I think that might be partially why Nordic went off on their own and did the flex and now whatever the number rating is called. They kind of wanted their own version of it rather than trying to compare it to everybody. And like my biggest thought process with that and how everything's different and not everybody, there's no one standard for everybody to follow. A couple years ago, there was a meet held, I think, by USDAF. I'm not entirely sure. But it was a youth meet from little itty bitty kids throwing the turbos all the way up to high school kids throwing standard javelins. The problem I had with that meet was they supplied all of the implements: javelin, shots, discs, and hammers that they threw. Which I was surprised that they threw threw hammer, excuse me. I'm gonna try to put this window up. But at that meet, there was a couple kids that I knew, and that's part of the reason I went to that meet, just to watch. And I actually rebuilt one of those kids' jabs, so I knew what he was throwing. And he had a higher end Nordic at the time. I don't quite remember which one he had, but it was a higher end Nordic. And what they had there was true flights. Now they had true flights from 50 meter to true flight 90 meter. Yeah, I think if they go that high, I don't remember. But they had it from base to professional, we'll just call it that way. And you gave those kids that were throwing Nordics, OTEs, and the higher end stuff like Namath and things, they were throwing that on a regular basis, and you just gave them a true flight to throw. Now, the aerodynamics on a true flight are not the same as a Namath or a Nordic. They have very blunt heads, like more blunt than I'd want. They're built for kids to learn on. They're not built for. That's why you don't see professionals throwing true flights. They're. I want to say they're on the cheap, but they're not cheap javelins. Okay, they're not bad javelins. They're just not meant for kids or adults throwing far. And especially if they're strong throwers, they're not meant for that at all. They're meant for kids to learn on. And you build on up from your base on up. So they gave those kids true flights, and you went from kids throwing 200 plus to 180 tops because you did not give the kid the right javelin. So that's just where I fall on that, because not everybody is the same. There is no standard flex rating. And I don't know how you would come up with a standard flex rating. I really don't. You would have to put somebody in charge of it and sit and make a rating for it. I really don't know how you would go about doing that. It'd be very difficult to do. So, yeah, I just kind of blabbed on about that for a minute or two. I apologize. I think that's all we got to say for this. I'm going to go home, put this together, and take kids for a walk. Maybe the dogs. I'm not entirely sure. We got to figure out which one we're going to put on the leash. I'm not sure which. But, so, thanks for tagging along. Thanks for listening. I'm going to drive home without looking at my phone. So, everybody, stay safe, throw far, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other.